Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Uh, Today we have to start in the second part of our previous lecture, that was Louis Pasteur. And this is Rabia Batul from Rawalpindi Women University. So let's see what we have to study in the second part of the chapter Louis Pasteur. Previously, we had been discussing that Pasteur was requested by the French government to um, to do his research on the silkworm disease, which was destroying the silk industry in the south of France. The writer says this treatment, though it was not at once adopted, was very successful in decreasing the epidemic. It has been estimated that before Pasteur came to the rescue, France had lost 40 million francs through silkworm disease, and an even more important result of this work was that it led Pasteur on to the study the infectious diseases of the higher animals, including man. So, which treatment? The treatment which Pasteur suggested to the silk growers was that the eggs of each moth or each silkworm, they should be separated with the help of microscope, and plus he suggested them that they should avoid overcrowding of the silkworms, they should avoid overheating, and extremely hygienic conditions should be kept for the healthy growth of the silkworm. So this treatment was adopted by the silk growers gradually, and it stood very successful because it started removing or solving the problem. And here are the pictures which you can see about the treatment suggested by Pasteur. Okay, it was during his work on the silkworm that Pasteur suffered from a stroke, the physical effects of which he never shook off. It has been attributed to overwork on the silk problem. Providentially, however, his mind was not injured, and in 1877, at the age of 55, he began to study the cattle disease named anthrax. Right? Previously, we have referred to his paralysis stroke, which he got during his work on silkworm. And in 1877, uh, he again started his study of the cattle disease named anthrax. It had already been suggested that this was due to a germ, and Pasteur finally proved the truth of his theory and further worked out preventive treatment. He cultivated the anthrax bacillus in such a way that it became only mildly poisonous, and proved that these wicked germs introduced into an animal's blood gave rise to only slight symptoms of anthrax and protected the animal from taking the deadly form, much in the same way as vaccination prevents smallpox. So, the first vaccine he prepared was for the treatment of cattle disease, anthrax, and it also proved very successful. This protective treatment have safeguarded millions of sheep and cattle from the disease. Reports from France and Hungary show that on many farms the death rate from anthrax has fallen from 10% to 1% among sheep, and from 5% to less than 1% among cattle. So all this achievement is a credit of Louis Pasteur. Here are the picture. First one explains the Bacillus anthracis, the bacteria that causes the serious infection disease. And Bacillus anthracis, it can be found in soil and commonly affects animals. And anthrax generally infects the human digestive system. right, and outer part of the body as well. The second picture is of the anthrax vaccine. And this brings us to the next stage of Pasteur's work, that on human diseases. Overcoming his dislike of seeing suffering, he visited hospitals, collecting infectious matters from patients, examining it microscopically, and identifying the germs associated with various diseases. For example, at the time, the maternity hospitals were devastated by puerperal fever in every country, and an appalling number of women died from the disease. So, a threatening great number or huge number of women, they were dying out of this disease, because this disease was caused by an infection after the childbirth. And Pasteur started his work on this disease right on time, which saved the lives of uh, so many women all over the world. Pasteur discovered its germ, and an interesting little episode is recorded by Mr. Rocks in connection with the discovery. He says, one day at a discussion on puerperal fever, which was taking place at the Academy of Medicine, while one of the most distinguished authorities was eloquently dissenting on the causes of epidemics of the disease at maternity hospitals, he was suddenly interrupted by Pasteur as follows. Pasteur said, "It is nothing of all that which causes the epidemic. It is the doctor and his belongings, means his instruments and everything the doctor uses, which carry the germs from disease to the healthy woman, from disease to the healthy woman, from sick woman to the healthy woman." So this was the explanation provided by Pasteur during a meeting in which one of the authorities, one of the members of the Academy of Medicine was discussing different reasons of the puerperal fever. Pasteur rejected all his statements, and he said that it is nothing of the all which causes the epidemic, and it is the doctor and his belongings which carry the germs from diseased to the healthy woman. And when the speaker replied with a superiority which we can all imagine, that he was afraid that they would never discover the microbe, uh, uh, Pasteur rushed to the blackboard and drew the germ, saying, "Stop, here is the picture." So Pasteur was such a great bacteriologist and he was such a great scientist that he knew the true cause of the diseases in which he researched a lot, and he was able to draw a picture of the puerperal fever on the blackboard, and he did it so quickly and made the whole problem so simple. Nowadays, thanks to Pasteur and Lister, epidemics of this disease in maternity hospital are unknown. Here is the picture of the germ, and puerperal fever is caused by uterine infection following childbirth. We now come to how he discovered the method of making vaccines, that is, weakened germs. So, if we want to explain vaccine, what is vaccine, we can say weakened germs, which can be inoculated or injected in myriad quantities into human beings as a cure or preventive of the disease caused by the ordinary unweakened germs. When these unweakened germs they are inoculated or injected in some given quantity, in some myriad quantities into human bodies, they become a source of cure or prevention of the real disease, because these germs are the weak, weakened germs, not the original germs of the disease. So this is what we can call a vaccine. He had gone away from his laboratory for a holiday in 1879 whilst working on fowl cholera, and on his return found all his cultivations of germs dead or dying. He proceeded in inoculate various birds with those dead or dying germs and found that the birds showed signs of illness but recovered. Right? When he used those dying germs as a vaccine. The idea then occurred to him of inoculating them with a fresh lot of virulent germs of chicken cholera, and he was amazed at the result that the birds still resisted the disease, though others which had not been previously dosed with the exhausted germs died. Mean he again tried the inoculation of chicken cholera germs into the bodies of the birds, and he found that the group of the birds which was vaccinated, it was still resisting the disease, but the other group which was not vaccinated, it died. So he arrived at the method of attenuating germs. Attenuating means of cultivating them so that they were weakened. Attenuating is the process of weakening the germs and transforming their virulent form into a weakened form, and also at the fact that such germs inoculated into a healthy animal produced a mild type of illness which protected the animal from attack by the virulent form of the disease. And this was the purpose of vaccine. Now let's see a few pictures. First picture is explains what is vaccine. When a substance used to stimulate the production of antibodies and provide immunity against one or several diseases. This is called vaccine. And the second picture is of which explains inoculation. The action of inoculating or being inoculated means being inoculated, vaccination. This is called vaccination and via injection. And the next picture shows the cultivation of the germs of fowl cholera, which is a serious, highly contagious disease caused by the bacterium in a range of avian species, which are chickens, turkeys, and waterfowls. The first human disease to which Pasteur applied inoculation was hydrophobia or rabies, the horrible illness produced by the bite of a mad dog. To give one some idea of its horrors, one needs only read such description as the following of a child of 5 admitted to a French hospital. Uh, Rabies, hydrophobia is a disease which is a symptom of rabies. And what is hydrophobia? It's the fear of water, right? The patient bitten by a mad dog, he uh, uh, gets sort of hallucination, and he becomes even afraid of water. And rabies, what it is, this is the disease which is caused by the bite of mad dog or bats, right? And the writer says to understand the horror of this disease, we should read this description about a 5 years old boy who was brought in a French hospital. The unfortunate little patient uh, um, presented all the characteristics of hydrophobia: spasms, restlessness, shudders at the least breath of air, an ardent thirst, accompanied with an absolute impossibility of swallowing, convulsive movements, and fits of furious rage. The child died after 24 hours of the horrible suffering, suffocated by the mucus which filled the mouth. So all these are the symptoms which a patient of rabies might have. As a matter of fact, its germs has never been found, but it was known that the part of the body affected in hydrophobia was the nervous tissue, and Pasteur tried taking some of the nervous tissues of an animal which had died of the disease and attenuating it, which he found could be done by exposing the spinal cord of the rabbits to dry air, which weakened it until after 14 days it was harmless. So in this way, he prepared another vaccine by attenuating the disease of rabies taken from a dead animal, from the spinal cord of rabid rabbits. Okay. Sorry, by taking the tissues of an animal which died out of rabies, and he used rabid rabbits in his